All right, along with Dominic and Andrew, let's go back to the phone lines. We've got Don calling us from Morristown in New Jersey. Don, thank you for joining us. Go right ahead.
Hey, Richard, thanks. My point was saying, nobody's talking about bullets. I mean, that's the source of the problem. I mean, guns are pointless without bullets. I mean, why don't we go after these companies?
You know, we've heard talks, thanks for the call, Don, about taxing bullets. It's like when they tried to curb cigarette use, they put a lot of tax, obviously, on a pack of cigarettes. And there's a debate about how effective it was or not, but there was talks about both limiting the total ammo one could buy at any one time, and then secondly, and having a database for that, or also taxing the ammo. Let's go to Liz, who's calling us from St. James out on the island. Go ahead, Liz, you're on the line.
Good evening, guys. I always tell people I know to do 3 trigger words. That's check, lock, and train. And what I mean is basically you check every morning if somebody tells you I love you, that same second you can check their backpack, their case, or even as far as the government goes, they can check your background. I have nothing to hide. Feel free to check me. If you got something to hide, don't get checked, don't get a weapon. Lock, keep your ammo separate, your weapon separate. Okay, it's that simple. You can not putting it on a high shelf or a wall, that doesn't count. Lock it up. Okay? And you have to train. It's a responsibility to know what you're doing. You have to have that background to know what you're doing and when to do it.
Liz, it's Andrew Whitman. I'm just curious, are you saying that if only people were better trained on how to be better gun owners, then we would have fewer problems? Liz, I'm sorry, are you just saying if people were better gun owners, we wouldn't have this many dead across the country?
Well, the problem is, there's a such thing as an owner, and then there's the other rest of the statistics, that's being forgotten about. A lot of people aren't owners. They borrow them, they steal them, they get a hold of them, or the numbers are somewhat skewed. So if we really, really want to figure out the percentage, we have to look at why it's happening and how it's happening at the same time.
And thanks, Liz. And, I always thought, guys, it sounds stupid, but I grew up in a town where there was parties going on when the parents weren't home, and the houses were either getting totaled, kids were getting hurt at the parties, people were driving drunk, wrapping the cars around trees. Finally, they decided best way to do this, they got to criminalize this on the parents. Parents wouldn't just have to go in their own pocket. They could even face some criminal exposure. Magically, all of a sudden it stopped. And to me, if you buy a gun, while it may be, we won't debate this, you're right, there's also going to be culpability and responsibility. Whatever happens to that gun, if it falls in the wrong hands, you have some criminal exposure for that too. I think it would change at least some of the perception of it. Wouldn't solve it, but I think it would change it a little bit.
I think it would help a little bit. I feel bad for Liz the same way I felt bad for Tom before. I feel bad for good gun owners. The problem here isn't good gun owners.
I've always wondered why they aren't the ones who are the loudest ones that condemn the other ones who go in, never train on a gun, and then all of a sudden treat it like you said, it's a bad extra and a diehard.
Because they're afraid that in all of this it's going to make it harder for them to get the gun that they want or the guns that they want in more likelihood. But the problem isn't the good gun owners. Smokers are penalized because it's unhealthy to other people.
Let me try and squeeze in a couple quick calls here. Charuz, hopefully I'm saying your name right. If not, I apologize. Calling us from New York City. Charuz, you're on the line.
Well, yes, I am a person that works for the police department and the school system for over 17 years. I wanted to answer, there are no good gun owners. Children emanate their parents. If the parents has a mind of, I can handle this, I can handle that, and they're not teaching their children about guns and violence, well, that child will take that same attitude, and if someone bothers them in school, they'll sneak that gun out the house, they'll put it in their backpack, and they create havoc in school.
So put it on the parents here. Put it on the parents. Let's go quickly to Diane, who's calling us out of Montclair, I think has a similar point. Do you believe this goes to family values, Diane?
Yes, I do. I don't think that this is really a gun issue. I think it's a human issue. I grew up in a family. I'm a baby boomer. I grew up in a family in a neighborhood where we were all connected with each other, and people knew what was going on with each other. I think that some of these people that are doing this are so disconnected, and if there were people in their life, if that village was still there and knew that person was suffering, something could be done before this happens.
Maybe, and I appreciate the call. I just say in the world we live in, maybe not the world we want to live in, we just have to deal with some of the realities. And the realities are a lot of crazy people doing a lot of crazy things, and a lot of innocent people are dying. And to me, I'm tired of doing these stories, and like many of you, you saw what happened in Newtown. It could have been any one of us who were running to that school to try and hopefully find our kid. You could have been any one of us that had a loved one go to work at that Navy Yard that didn't come home. And for us as a country not to relate to these people and say that could be us and not do anything different about it, that to me is crazy. All right, thank you everyone for your calls here tonight and sounding off. We're going to be hearing from much more on this. We're going to cover this with special reports going forward. But speaking of special reports, last week we brought you a bunch of different specials, and we asked you to weigh in, and you did. When we come back, we'll open up our RFL mailbag. Please stay with us.